Hey, did you hear that Dodge is playing with the idea of building a new small sports car? Yeah, I don't really know about that because they don't even have a V8 in their lineup anymore. Well, the CEO said that it might be a good idea to make something sub $30,000. Yeah, doesn't seem like a stretch. I mean, their green screen unveil of their Charger was pretty cool. While they pretended to do donuts. But technically, doesn't that Fiat count? Didn't they already do this? I'm honestly curious if this goes anywhere. Welcome to DUDEKHANA. DUDEKHANA is a head-to-head race around a course with road course elements and drifting combined, proving if you really are the most efficient driver around. With car control tests of your grip management and drifting control as you race against your opponent. Horsepower doesn't matter here, only skill and patience. All with an ending into a perfect parallel parking box. So come out and show off your skills at the first ever DUDEKHANA at Caffeine Octane Lanier Raceway on March 22nd, 2025. Tickets on sale now. So, according to some rumors, Dodge might be playing around with the idea of building a Miata competitor. Instead of building another premium sports car like the Dodge Viper, which, rest in peace, has been discontinued, they might go the opposite direction. So let's break down some of the other concepts that almost happened as a Miata competitor, what Dodge could do with a car like this, and if it's even a good idea. Before we start, I just want to politely ask you to hit the like button because it really truly does help me out in this very unpredictable YouTube world with the algorithm. Along with that, I'd love to hear from you and comment down below what you think Dodge should do right now. Before we get into it, do you think Dodge should build a Miata competitor, or should they try to take their resources and attempt to build V8s again? What direction do you think's better? Put it in the comment section below. And thank you guys so much, I really appreciate it. Just to give you some context, Mazda just hit their all-time sales record last year. And it's mostly due to a few factors. They actually build cars that are very engaging to drive, and even their crossovers are nice cars. They do feel special in that aspect compared to the other brands. There is something about Mazda that sticks out when you drive one. And they've also proven that the Miata is a proven formula that works for their brand. Especially in their entire old slogan, zoom zoom, right? It's fun to drive, it's engaging to drive. And it's pretty wild to think that Mazda hit their sales record now, compared to the more golden era that you and I think of with rotary engines and everything like that. You would totally assume that's when they would have had their sales record, but it's not true. As you can imagine with this strategy, a lot of the other car companies are probably looking towards Mazda and going, okay, what are we doing wrong here? What can we do like Mazda to gain the trust of the consumer back? And also it helped Mazda that they didn't give in to the EV stuff as much. All of their cars use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. They're usually just naturally aspirated or basic turbocharged engines with a very nice interior for the money. I'm always shocked when I get in like a Mazda rental car and I'm like, it's actually a pretty nice car. So with Mazda on a high note and Dodge unfortunately kind of at a weird low note right here, not hating, it's just kind of the way it is, and also the state of Stellantis in general, the company that owns Dodge and many other brands, if you're not aware, what could they do to get customers excited about the brand again, to get people excited about the Dodge brand again? Replace all their legendary V8s with a 6-cylinder turbo engine and also EVs? Definitely not in my bingo card of success. Dodge's identity was Hellcat V8s. And I'm not saying the rest of their cars, like their commuter cars and stuff. I mean, when you thought of a Dodge as an enthusiast, you thought of burning rubber, V8s, supercharger whine, intense, fun vehicles to drive and ride in. I mean, the Charger, regardless of its very wishy-washy reputation of like being stolen all the time and also being a part of the takeover problem and all that kind of reputation, the Charger is still a cool car. It's undeniable. It's fun to drive, it's dramatic and ridiculous. And then they went over to the new Charger platform, which when it comes to cool factor, just isn't there right now. But instead of going towards the V8 option, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, would it be smart for Dodge to go the opposite way? Something affordable, sub $30,000. It doesn't have to be a zillion horsepower, simple to produce, doesn't need all the amenities, just something that's modern, but at the same time raw. Believe it or not, this is not the first time Dodge played with this idea, even though it does feel like a century ago since they've even considered this as an option. So let's talk about Dodge Miata concepts that have happened throughout the years. Probably the most prominent one being the Dodge RZR. It was a concept that was debuted at the North American Auto Show. It was all the way back in 2002. The concept was actually appealing for something even today. It had a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine with a turbo on it, which I'm assuming they would take from, say, the SRT4. That's kind of my guess. It would have been rear-wheel drive with a 6-speed manual, bare bones, not a lot of amenities, and a goal of a weight of around 2,500 pounds. It kind of gives me some Saturn Sky and Pontiac Solstice vibes. But honestly, having a turbocharged 250 horsepower engine in a car this light as a roadster, that sounds like a blast.
That's pretty good.
Especially since you would basically be building a rear-wheel drive SRT4. Sign me up. I also realized that the font of the concept car, the RZR, looks suspiciously like the scooter company RZR, which if you're a millennial like me, you'll know that RZR scooters were all the rage. Like you would beg mom and dad for a RZR scooter, even though they were the most expensive scooter on the market at the time. It cornered the market with this stuff. Well, funny story, it was a collaboration between Dodge and RZR, the scooter company. I mean, kind of smart because it's like, okay, here's this big fad that's going on right now. Here's a really cool sports car concept. Let's work together with branding, and people think it's the coolest thing in the world. And I honestly don't think it's a terrible looking concept. It's definitely dated, but if you took some of the design language of Dodge at the time with the grille that was on every single car, it is a pretty good looking car for their lineup. However, the back of it is definitely pretty crazy. The back of it definitely gives Chrysler Crossfire vibes, so I'm not surprised that the Crossfire came into existence because looking at this, there's definitely some influence there. But nothing came of the RZR as a full production concept car, but like I just said, there was definitely some influence for some later models. Then in 2004, they had another crack at it. And this was the Dodge Slingshot, which was actually modeled after the Smart Roadster. Yes, that company, Smart, that is a collaboration with Mercedes. The little smart cars, yeah, they also had these little roadsters as well. Obviously just not sold here in the United States. It was a 3-cylinder car with only 100 horsepower. And I guess you could say it was pretty much a European K car. Very much something you'd find in Japan, like a Suzuki Cappuccino or a Honda Beat. So low displacement, low horsepower, but lightweight and fun to drive. That was the idea of it. And of course, that's pretty cool because the motor was mounted behind you. Dodge took that Smart model, did their own Americanized spin on it. Rear-wheel drive, manual gearbox, fun. But then of course, nothing came about it because I really don't blame them on this one. I really don't know if that thing would have sold well in the States. I really don't. I think the Dodge RZR would have had a better chance than the Dodge Slingshot personally. Then there was the Dodge Demon concept. No, not that Dodge Demon that we all know today, the big Challenger with a zillion horsepower. The original Dodge Demon concept was a Miata competitor. To basically explain it in the simplest way possible, it was essentially a mini Viper. This was at the Geneva Motor Show in 2007, and it had a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. So a little bit of a downgrade in my opinion to the Dodge RZR, and it had 172 horsepower. So numbers wise, much closer to the Mazda Miata. But the project was squashed because of, well, like usual, money. The amount of money it would have taken to research and development this car and manufacture it just wasn't in the cards for Dodge at the time. If you really wanted to be a jerk as an automotive enthusiast or an automotive historian, I guess you could say, hey, you could say Dodge already did this. And we're talking like technicalities here because Stellantis owns Dodge, but they also own Fiat Abarth. You know, Abarth, who makes the Fiat 500 Abarth with the little turbocharged engine, front-wheel drive, fun car, which has one of the biggest steering wheels I've ever driven. It's like straight Lego hands all the way around that thing. But the reason I bring up the Abarth is the Fiat 124 Spider, also nicknamed the Fiata, because there's lots of similarities between the Miata and the Fiat 124 Spider. Cars aren't exactly the same, but they actually come out of the same factory. While the Miata was seen as more of the playful, fun one, the Fiat 124, I guess you could kind of view it more as a GT car. A little bit more comfortable, a little bit more plush. And of course, the Fiat 124 had a turbocharged engine, but it was only the 1.4 liter turbocharged engine, and it only made 11 horsepower more than the Miata. And depending on who you ask, a lot of people prefer the Fiat's interior to the Miata. Full disclosure, I'm a Miata guy personally. It was still cool to see a different take on the platform. And honestly, that this car even existed. There was also the cool factor of the Fiata, since you just simply didn't see them as often. If you wanted something similar to the Miata, but you still wanted to stick out from the crowd and be different. And believe it or not, it sold fairly well out of the gate. But with reliability issues that plagued Fiat at the time, and that caused the reputation of Fiat at the time, Miata, at the end of the day, was the winner of this sibling rivalry. So maybe Dodge could look at this model. It can go, okay, what can we do to stick out more from the Miata? Because in my opinion, even though they had different engines and stuff, the Fiat 124 and the Miata were just so similar that it was just like, why wouldn't I buy the Miata? It's proven, everybody knows it, and it's always going to be good. How would Dodge price it against the Miata? If Dodge is going to be messing around with smaller engines like 4-cylinder turbos and not V8s, how do you build that trust again with the enthusiast community? Or just somebody who wants to buy a convertible roadster? How do you defeat the #1 sold roadster of all time? Well, that's not the only problem for the theoretical Dodge Miata. If theoretically Dodge went forward with this, and it was within a few years or so, or maybe 5 years, they would also have to compete with some serious heavy hitters that are on the horizon as we speak. Mainly the Toyota MR2 and the Celica. If I were a betting man, I would bet that the enthusiasts would buy the Toyota, personally. Sorry. And Toyota even played with the idea of taking on the Miata with the SFR concept, which then Toyota was like, you know what? We'll just do these other cars instead. So if Toyota was even like, I don't know if this is a good idea, then what does that mean for Dodge? At the end of the day, Dodge's CEO likes the idea of building an entry-level sports car under $30,000. But hey, it's fun to talk about, it's fun to speculate, and it's fun to think of what could be. Hey, I love a world where this car did exist. So my question goes off to you. What do you guys think of all this? Would this be a good way for Dodge to build back trust in the enthusiast community? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you have a rear-wheel drive sports car and you like sliding, make sure to head out to DUDEKHANA on March 22nd, 2025 at Caffeine and Octane Linear Raceway. It's gonna be a ton of fun. It's gonna be wonderful to watch. We just did a test day and it was so much fun as a spectator to even watch it, even if you're not competing. So just come out, support the channel, support the local car community, and support the racetrack. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.